James Steinhubel on TVU with. Where are we going? Sorry. What are we doing?
Oh, that
what
chick.
show am I on? Where am I going here? I was going to go Fear It Goes, right?
Yeah.
But I think that's not really where we're going, right?
We can do, like, I kind of want to talk, I've been thinking a lot about protective mind and what you want to be, because this is the perfect time. There's a lot of change happening right now, right? A lot of things happening right now. And
Okay,
this is a
so
good time
this
to ask
Brandi
yourself that.
Taylor, unplugged, uncut. What do we call it? What's this new segment?
Oh, whatever
Are
you
we
want to call
meeting
it.
weekly now, or what are we doing?
You can call it whatever you want. You could actually stick it under the Fear It Goes, or you could just call me Brandi Taylor, or whatever you want.
Our unofficial video version of Fear It Goes.
The
All
uncut,
right.
uncensored.
Uncut, uncensored. James Steinhubel on TVU with Brandi Taylor and the unofficial video version of Fear It Goes. How are you doing, Brandi?
I am fantastic. How are you, James?
Very good, very good. It's good to see you. The sun must be shining in Calgary. You seem very bright and radiant today.
It is a little bit. We definitely have some blue sky, which is so lovely. So lovely. It's amazing to have spring, honestly. Yes. And it was really incredible to get out and go for a hike the other day. And I've been taking my kids out to this one park that is so fun. It's got this gigantic hill and we've taken the scooters. And I'm not kidding. So talk about moments of bringing out your inner child. My oldest is 13 and he says, Mom, do you want to go down the hill? I'm like, yes, I want to try, but I have no idea how fast it's going to be. So I got my foot on the brake. And then the second run, you're like, screw that. It's so fun. It's so fun. And it was hilarious. I actually posted it on Instagram, and it was actually, I posted the first run on Instagram, but it is a blast. And it's incredible when you get to do things that really do bring out your inner child, that allow you to kind of release all the responsibilities and the heaviness of what we experience on a daily basis, right? Just to be able to play and have fun and be joyful and just in the moment. It was just really fun. So yes, I'm loving spring.
So good, you know. And I've got roots and experience in Calgary, and my favorite place is, I call it the Nose Hill Park. It's the park sort of up over Huntington Hills and kind of goes around, and you can come up the side. It's very interesting in there. There's some great history. There used to be a sheep farm up there. There's some Aboriginal artifacts up there. Calgary is a fantastic and interesting city.
It's so funny that you picked that area because I grew up in Huntington Hills.
Interesting.
So I know that hill quite well.
I would tell a great story about my cousin Darren. We used to toboggan on there without anybody knowing, and we'd wear skidoo goggles, and we'd come flying down there like 60 kilometers an hour. I'm telling you,
because it's a serious hill.
Serious tobogganing. And now that would be, I guess, 14th Street that runs all the way through there. So
yeah,
got me reminiscing about Calgary. What's on your mind today? You're getting to talk to something, so I started recording right away. So
yeah, I've honestly, over the last little while, I've been thinking a lot about who we are and what we want to be. And I just put out a newsletter yesterday actually on this. Like, who do you want to be? Who do you want to become? We're in the midst of massive change, a lot of upheaval right now. And I'm thinking this is an opportunity to really think about who you are now and who you want to be. And I'm thinking of the breakdown, right? So we have, like I said, a lot of upheaval right now in society and economically, socially. We have a lot of, some are experiencing a lot of upheaval within their homes and a lot of change. So I kind of go back to this analogy. I think very often when I teach meditation, I talk about how it's not as hard as everybody seems to think it is. They're like, oh, I've tried that, I can't do it, right? But it's like going into the gym the first time and you've never been in the gym, but yet you're trying to lift 100 pounds. You can't. You have to build your way into it. And that process itself is the most amazing journey getting there. So that process is the breaking down of muscles, right? That's what we're doing. We're having all these little tiny micro tears in muscle to rebuild new, better, stronger ones. And that's what we're doing with ourselves every time we allow something to surface and work through it. We're allowing this upheaval, which we think is going to be so horrible because it hurts when you go to the gym the first few times, right? No one's loving that pain. You're like, I can't walk, or my legs hurt so bad, or my back hurts bad, or whatever. Um, and I literally have been doing this insane yoga challenge with a yogi master who is like insane. And I have done yoga my whole life. And honestly, I have never taken on a challenge like this. Like there are positions I'm not capable of doing at this stage. And it's hard and it's a struggle. And I've been sore, but I know what that soreness means. I know it brings about a better me. So don't be afraid of the little upheavals or big ones you experience in your life to become the greatest you. And so again, I'm kind of thinking on the whole, who do you want to be? And people often go to the shallow end of the pool when they think about stuff like this, right? It's like, well, who do I want to be? Well, I'm a 20-year-old and I'm in school and I want to be a doctor. Okay, let's go a little bit deeper. Why? What do you want from that? Who do you want to be? Who I want to help people. Okay, that's getting deeper. I want to help people. Okay, who do you want to be in that capacity? I want to be kind. I want to be generous. I want to be patient. I want to be understanding, empathetic. I want to give this to the world. I want to teach. I want to, whatever it is you want to do isn't about who you are being in those moments. So I've been thinking a lot about the being. Who do you want to be? Who do you want to become? Because in this moment, this is us either playing full on, being all of us, all of who we can be, or not. We're either playing small or we're playing big.
You know, lots comes to mind, and you know, my background is philosophy, comparative religions, metaphysics.
This is probably why we get along so well.
and mysticism, right? Now, when I say metaphysics and mysticism, do you have a definition in your mind that is strictly a functional definition, or is it attached to ideology and religiosity?
It's funny because over the last little while, I've come to the conclusion that definitions, terms, labels, all of them are there only for us to be able to compartmentalize something. For sometimes it's a tool, sometimes it's just us being able to clump it into a box. Mm-hmm. So I tend to not label anything anymore.
Okay. So when I say metaphysics and mysticism, I can speak of these themes without you summoning images of religion. Okay, good.
Right? Without a label.
So I want to talk to you about what you just talked about, and I want to go in a little further, and then I want to hear what you have to say from where I get to. Okay?
Yeah.
So when I encounter change, I'm encountering things that are above the physical. So I'm now stepping into a metaphysics, right?
Yeah.
So things are now organized in a way that are not physical to me, and I have to add a upper level order to it. So once I move into a state of metaphysics, I'm drawn into, or we are drawn into points of elation or euphoria or satisfaction, whatever desire we go to, and that forms our mysticism. That's our mysticism, right? Mm-hmm. So as you are viewing that, and you're put into a metaphysics and then now experiencing mysticism, you came up with a phrase that's very spiritually important to me. And so spirituality is different than, it's similar to metaphysics and mysticism, and that's becoming.
Right.
So this becoming is so powerful, and it's ancient. And that comes from the definition of the word JHVH, okay, as it pours through Judeo-Christianity and is verbalized as Yahweh or Jehovah or whatever.
Yeah.
But what it meant and what it means is the divinity of becoming. And how they just tried to describe God back then before it became religion. So when it was in its purity
Right.
of enlightenment, it is the continual arrival of becoming. Okay, so now we're sort of in the same spot. So now you are becoming. Okay, so I just want to bring up one more concept, and that is the existentialist concept. Sartre dealt with it, Heidegger dealt with it, Nietzsche to some degree, and it's the emergence of possible future. Okay, and there's many possible futures that
That's
can
right.
emerge. Okay, so now what connects us to infinity is our becoming, and now the panorama or the plethora or the pantheon, wherever you grasp next, of emerging possible future. So what as I take you to that point now, how does that hit you? What do you think? What do you respond? Where do you go with that?
It's interesting because I often find when you are in an awareness or a higher state, right? I think we talked about this the last time. I really see us in one of two states only ever. We are in lower state or higher state. Everything is emotionally based. How we are processing emotions and what we're letting go of and what we're not, whether we're anchored in lower or higher. And when you're in higher state, everything is blissful. You see the world very, very differently. And I can honestly say it's a really bizarre thing that happens from a physical standpoint at the time of being this. When we are in our highest being, what we are truly, fully capable of being, colors look different. It's an incredible state. And honestly, nothing anyone says to you will shake you. Anxiety, depression, what's that? You have you are untouchable when you are being your highest you. And we all have this in us. And I look back on all the science that I've learned, how the mind works, because I've gone down massive rabbit holes on that. And if I'm going to simplify things, it boils down to something as simple as this. We work in or out of our protective mind, right? And we work in and out of our sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. But the body is taking cues all the time from multiple sources. We're taking it energetically. Whether you like to believe this or not, you're an energetic being. You just are. So you're picking up vibrations and frequencies from around you. And the way that your mind is perpetuating thought also creates what you experience physically. So if I am thinking on, this is just an example of primitive versus non. Okay, if I am thinking on something that is keeping me small, something that is keeping me in what I have been in the past, I've been thinking a lot about what we experience right now is a reflection of our past and an opportunity for the future. And it's all in the way we view it. So if I keep drawing up the past, oh, but my children are fighting all the time, or my spouse is a jerk, or I'm just pulling things out of my head, or my bank account isn't reflecting what I want it to be, or anything along this line. I'm really just pulling up past into my present. I'm not looking at how I'm going to create my future. This is protective. This is primitive. This is the way your mind works. And it keeps you here because it's the known. And this is the simplest breakdown you'll ever get. If your brain, okay, so if you can see, if you've done it before, you can predict what's going to come. Therefore, I can keep you safe. I'm going to look at worst case scenario or keep you in the not so great scenarios because it's protection. It's the way I protect myself. But really, that's not us in protection. Maybe before when we were running away from things, and maybe before when we had to really be hyper aware of our surroundings, this was a safety feature. But at this point now, we have evolved way too much to allow that brain to be the forefront thinker.
So
Like that, this is
it's a like a learned behavior that
conditioned.
conditioned, so conditioned
Yes.
behavior that forms what appears to be almost instinctive response, but it is a condition that it's compressed into the mind. Well, there must be a capacity, or maybe mind, I've read that or thought that and discussed that mind is it can function any way that we perceive that it's functioning. So if we begin to try to define our phenomenology, our experience of phenomenon, and we begin to define it, it's just one sliver of a possible way, but other people can understand that, and that way of understanding can begin to dominate, even though it's just like one micro possibility of the way the mind can experience reality. So
if I'm
that being said, can we get rid of that? Can we get rid of this
yes.
conditioned instinctive response?
You can reprogram always. See, remember last time we were talking about original meanings, right? Like the original programming that we have when we are little takes us forward into our belief systems and how we act, and everything's subconscious. And I'm telling you, 90 to 95% of your actions are subconscious. So hello, super aware, we're not. And it's not something to be upset about, angry about, guilty, shameful about. All these low-grade emotions are protection mechanisms from the protective mind. How we use them, like when we're talking really low grades, shame and guilt are literally taught. Like you've just been trained to feel shameful and guilty instead of just recognize it for what it is. It's interesting. So I'm reading an amazing book right now on emotions and how to let go, how to move through emotions, how to use them well, and which emotions are complete and utter junk. And it's kind of funny because I know like the vibrational levels of emotions and how they affect our body. And when you look at shame and guilt, they sit at the bottom of the spectrum, and they're so low in vibration. They're literally like a giant magnet sucking you down. That's not going to help anyone ever. It's a control mechanism, works great in society if you feel guilty and shameful about anything that you're doing so that you don't continue to do it.
Which plays on, of course, you'd have to be versed in your view, but it plays on innate vulnerability.
But think about it. I mean, how did our parents control us when we were kids?
Well,
did
they applied shame or guilt or fear to an existing vulnerability,
right,
to activate
to
a
something
vulnerability.
You're questioning. Should I have done that? Instead of a discussion, which I think this is the beauty of the state that we're in now, where we're much more aware and we're much more at an information age, right? We're not sitting in ignorance. And we're not sitting in a state of, well, sort of right now in quarantine we are, but mostly not. We're not usually sitting in a state of just barely surviving like the generation that came out of a war. Right?
It is way different. Yeah.
We have the opportunity to have a discussion with our children that we didn't have previous generations. Previous generations had to function differently, but we've come out of that.
Let's take it to a higher sociological level, because we all know, right? And we're there and we're participating and we understand these things.
Hmm.
Um, but at the level of culture now, with these protective minds in everybody, and now, you know, pushing into forced change,
Right.
which I guess. So, what is it possible, to use this understanding and this near enlightenment, because we never claim that we're fully enlightened, because you just say you're enlightened, you're not, right?
I
But
think you kind
as
of
we
come in
approach
and
these
out of
edges,
enlightenment.
what's that?
I think you kind of come in and out of enlightenment, or
Yeah.
you can. And enlightenment
Yeah.
is honestly the most incredible, overflowing love for everything and that connection to all. And if you've experienced that, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It is
So is that
absolute
it? Do
bliss.
we just do it for ourselves? Is it,
No,
you know?
but that's not it. It's
Okay.
not about ourselves. It is like,
I know what you're saying, but is that the ideal state? Is just to be in the higher state of abundant creativity, and just move in that as an individual, and move in that the best you can, or not the best you can, but in surging
right.
into that, not
Okay.
worrying if the other elements of human organization pick up it, just encouraging other people to be in that state, and then it will take care of
Yes.
itself.
Yes, because the more you are truly whole, authentic, the more you give in this world, the more you show up in this world, the more you give other people permission to do the same. This is the part that's so amazing, is that when you do hit these higher states, and we can all hit them, you can all release baggage, you can all release blocks, you can all release the stuff that's holding you still or in
Mm.
smallness. But when you reach these higher states, the gift you are giving to this world elevates it. You are never, ever playing small. And I don't mean your life becomes crazy and super intense. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about what you are giving. You become this giant beacon that people want to experience life with, or like, hello, love of your life showing up. Hello, hello, best relationships you've ever experienced. Hello, best health of your life, because these things just happen. They just happen because it's who you are. But we put these barriers. The protective mind is constantly putting barriers in our way. It's like sticking doors in front of us over and over and over again. And we're walking through one to find two more.
Is
You
is
can
80 is
break down all those
85
doors,
85 years enough for a
but you
human
can break
being?
down all those doors.
But do we have enough time?
Yes, of course we do.
Can it be done in an instant, or is it process?
Mm, it's a training. So, as much as I'd like to say it could happen in an instant, because it can, very often it's an untrained mind. It's a puppy, right? Our minds are like, if you have not done this work, and trust me, even when you have, you're still a student. This is
Mhm.
what I realized this week. No matter what, I am a teacher, but I am still a student. I will always be a student. There will always be things that this mind brings up and says, ha ha ha, got you here, you know? But it's like an untrained puppy. You have to train it to stop biting people, and really it's biting you, and it's peeing on people, and that's us in our wounds, just
Mm.
like expelling all this damage that we feel inside that we don't know how to address, or we don't know how to move through. There are, and again, this is the best part of this, is it's not your fault. It's not your fault. Once you recognize what's really happening, you realize this isn't about a fault, a blame, a shame, a guilt, any of that. None of it. And you don't have to own that shame, guilt, fear, anything that that your non-creative mind, that your protective mind is sticking in front of you. You don't have to claim it. You don't have to own it, but it takes some training. It takes some practice. You won't just get this the first run out. And if you do, it won't stick, because you have to train your mind. It's literally creating the new neural pathways, right?
Mhm. So
So there
that
is some training involved.
so you've chosen a yoga, which is a kinesiological approach, right? It's a body, but it is an inner motive, but you're moving, you're aware of your space, you're being physically, spiritually present in your space,
It's
and
also
relaxing
opening
into
up.
things, right?
Oh, it's not relaxing what I've been doing. Like, not even close.
Well, you don't push yoga though.
It has
You
been
move into it, right?
intense, but it's about opening up. And I mean, this yogi talks a lot about the energy centers within us and opening those up, right? So if you go more into Eastern, like Eastern
Yeah.
culture, you're
Mhm.
talking about chakras
Mhm.
and the energy centers we carry inside the body, and then how things work outside that. So he's talking about like the energy flow and opening up things in our body, and your body tells you a lot. So if I'm sitting with my shoulders slumped like this, my heart is not open.
Mm.
Like how you stand, how you sit, how like your body tells you a ton of stuff, but we are never taught this in school. We aren't aware of these things. So this is why I said it's not instant for any of the things I'm talking about, because we're not taught this. And once you're taught this, then it's up to you to run with it. And trust me, what comes intuitively after you open the first big door, it's so awesome. It's so awesome. But you need to get to the first door.
So you, maybe because I listened to Fear It Goes on Radio U, and I've interviewed you before, but you, you seem changed. You seem like you've had, I don't know, you've gone into a different spot. Now, is this just what you're talking about? What you're talking this recent, or has it
Since
been
the last time we
epiphanies?
spoke,
Yeah,
so I said, I'm forever the student.
yeah.
So I gave you full disclosure last time. I'm not going to do anything different now. Being human, protective mind has played some very, very powerful, um, has brought up some very, very powerful things over the last little while for me, and a
Mm.
lot of fear. And it's funny because fear is protection. It is literally our protection system, right? Fight or flight, fight, flight, or what's the other one? Fight, flight, or it's not faint,
Fight or flight or whatever. Yeah.
but it's fight or flight, right? And um, when we're dealing in fear, you're not thinking at full capacity. So fear bubbles up. You know, I'm afraid of what's happening out in the world today. I'm afraid of riots. And a friend of mine yesterday literally said to me, I can't believe this. Oh my God, there's riots. And I was like, what? And this is here. No, we had protests yesterday, but a lot of people showed up. And it's so honoring to see so many people come together for a cause that's important, because honestly, the color of your skin means nothing. It's the label. It's again compartmentalizing and separating us instead of joining us. Because all in all, the color of your skin, the religion you experience, doesn't change who you are deep inside. Deep inside, we are all connected to the same thing. We are all these incredible energy beings walking through an existence here, an existence in duality, which can pose a lot of struggle. And let me
So
tell you, when you're
let
in
me.
struggle,
I'm with you. I'm
protective
with you.
mind.
I'm with you. I'm with you. So now that you shared that, you've been rattled. Something rattled you.
Absolutely.
Like
Protective mind has been
you've regrouped.
so,
You've regrouped though. Maybe protective mind, but maybe reality, and you've regrouped. Even your face energy is different. Like you've taken a new position inside.
yeah, for sure. But this is a, okay. When it comes to any change like this, where you really want to own your power, where you really want to step out in the world and be you, authentic, true, full on you, right? I'm not going to allow all these self doubts and the negativity and the, oh, I tried that and it didn't work. Because honestly, that's just an excuse we tell ourselves. Instead of that, we make a choice. It starts with the choice, the decision, right? I don't want to be that. I want to be this. I want to be kinder. I want to be more patient with my kids. I want to sit down and have relationships that matter to me. I want to go out and do something in my career that really impacts other people. All of these things are who we really are. So I make that choice. I want to be the best mom I can. So some days I do a great job at that and some days I don't. But I'm always going, okay, we can do this better. Pull the shame and guilt off. That is a protective mind mechanism. And if you literally just go, oh, that's protective mind, I can get rid of that. I can get rid of that. It's a choice. The way we are thinking is choice. And what we create is also choice. You are stuck in nothing ever unless you think you are. And the only thing that is stopping you from being the most crazy, magnificent person out on the planet is you. Nothing else. When we're blaming something like, I just lost my job or my spouse is this, we're blaming because we're trying to avoid something that the door we need to go through inside. That's it. And honestly, again, it's not a shame or guilt thing. Don't feel bad about this. It's just you're not trained to do it. And once you learn, oh, it's amazing.
What did you see? You seem very urgent now with your message. Before it was very much you were very not confident or proud in it, but sustainable in the joy of it. And now you seem to have an urgency.
I think it's that there is massive change going on. And this is, again, I see it as such an incredible opportunity because we can elevate or sink. Sink or swim, baby. Sink or swim. What do you want to do? And I think this is the time. There is massive change afoot.
Mhm.
I'm looking at economically where we're headed, what that means for a lot of people. And if you choose to stay small, you're going to go down with that boat.
Where if I'd asked you, about, let's say, the uh, unleashing of an attempt to establish a foothold in a not industrial but a technological complex, using the resources of Alberta and establishing it on the moon. Um, where do you What would that say to you?
Alberta is an interesting place because I really do believe Alberta needs the shift, mental shift, right? Like we've been kind of stuck in a mindset for a very, very long time within one sector. So some of you know I came from a finance background. So when we look at the energy sector, it's been dominant here for a very long time, right? We have incredible opportunity within each of our provincial governments to create opportunity for something else, right? So we can support other industries or sectors to come in. And we had something coming in here. We had a tech company that was supposed to take over one of the buildings downtown, and it would have been great because it's a brand new sector. Well, I shouldn't say brand new sector, but it's newer to us, being that this is not a dominant sector in our space, right? And tech is amazing. There's so much going on, so much going on. And why would we not want some of the most incredible minds to be here?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Bring in other life forms to this province. We can't just be in one space, because when you got all your eggs in one basket, and which we just saw at the very beginning of the COVID lockdown. No one was driving, oil prices tanked. And what did we see in Alberta? And trust me, Alberta of all provinces is experiencing something as this COVID really shifts and we actually do go out more, which we are just in the midst of doing right now. We will see ramifications from that drop. And I do believe we need to diversify. I think the country needs to diversify and keep some of the
I'm with you.
most
I think
incredible minds here. They leave because there's no opportunity here. bring
So
opportunity
reach for high
in,
ground. Reach for high ground.
right?
What do you think of space business?
Did you say space?
Yeah.
Like
Or
SpaceX and stuff?
yeah, go to the moon.
I think it's I think that's
Why not? It's only 250,000 miles away. You know what I mean?
it's
High powered exit velocity is almost 65,000 miles. It doesn't take 3 days to get to the moon. We're talking like 4 hours. But can you stop? Now, this is the other thing about, well, it's not up to me, right? I just have to, I want to get there, right?
right.
But, so I'm just, I was just seeing, I don't know, I was just, maybe that was your commerce inside of you, but I like it. It's not serious. It's just, you're connected to a deeper, more purposed
Opportunity.
vibe.
What does that look like? It could be anything, right? It could be anything. It's amazing when I think about like shifts that people make. So, dentist I know left his dental career. Okay, and dentistry obviously pays a lot of money. Left his dental career to go be a dog trainer. But it brings him massive joy, and he's made a great business of that because he's in what he really wanted to be.
So what's the reach forward for you? What are you going to do? What can we look for from Brandi Taylor and Fear It Goes? What's the fear filled but courage is greater step forward?
Okay, this is funny actually, because this has been a lot of what's been going on in my headspace over this last little while around, like I said, there's been like some fear that's been surfacing up a lot about playing small. And what does that mean to me? Everybody's, everybody's, everybody's is going to mean something different, right? It's like my success is not the same as your success. So when I'm drawing this out for a client and we're working on, their, their life plan, I don't even want to call it that, but we call it like this clarity roadmap, right? When we're drawing out what we really want, what does that look like for me? Mine is going to look like, again, I have kids, so they're a big part of that for me. How I help people, how I move them forward. So my big fear over the last little while in this whole smallness zone has been about being visible. And I recognize, let's talk about original meanings. I recognize where this all comes from, right? So I know that this comes from my childhood. And if I just stayed small, I didn't get hurt, right? So for me, long-standing recognized pattern that I now recognize. I recognize now why I would say to myself, oh, I don't need that, or I can just settle for this, or all the things that our mind does to keep us in that space because it's safe, because it's safe. But in that safety, you're part of you. You're showing up as part of you. And I don't want that. So I knew I didn't want that. I made the declaration. I don't want that. I want to play full on. I want to be big. How do I do that? I got to show up. What does that mean for me? It means I have to be visible. So that means more videos. That means a lot more of putting myself out there and getting this message out. Because really, the more people I can train, the more puppies, right? The more puppies I can train, the more incredible this world is. Like the more incredible this world is because they all show up as them, full on them, not the one that's settling, not the one that's pissed off, not the one that's resentful of, a life they're not happy in or a spouse that, they're blaming. Whatever is showing up that is keeping you in struggle can be worked through and then totally released. And it is the most amazing feeling when you lighten up, because that's how you feel. You feel like so much lighter when you've released all these things.
Brandi Taylor, Fear It
That's
Goes. TVU.
it. Get on TV.